the east, with the best of the sunshine here. Through the middle part of the week, it stays quite changeable, a mixture of sunshine and showers, but generally temperatures quite close to average for the time of year.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
It's the big one. Your chance to win a whopping £85,000 in tax-free cash. The largest cash prize we've given away to date. That's like over £7,000 a month extra in your bank account each month for 12 whole months. That's a year of yes. Yes to holidays, yes to treats, yes to shopping trips, yes to home improvements. For a chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good evening, this is Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Howie. On the show tonight, Pauline Hanson wears a burka in the Australian Parliament and sparks a renewed debate on women's rights. Her stunt reignites the question, can progressives defend women's freedom while sidestepping criticism of conservative Islamic practices? Graeme Linhan is cleared of harassment. The comedy writer's case exposes how UK authorities have been drawn into policing culture wars and may signal a shift in the boundaries of free speech. He is going to join us in the studio later, and we have a huge story of 3 therapists from 3 different therapy bodies exposing institutional capture, when it comes to treating vulnerable children. A very important story. The Justice Secretary warns long court backlogs are forcing victims to wait years and many cases collapse, pushing the government to scrap jury trials for most offences. Is this the end of liberty? And amid huge rallies, a return to Christian roots. Tommy Robinson supporters in particular are quietly turning to churches. But how will an increasingly woke Church of England respond? And we've got comedians answering some crazy culture developments from our live studio audience. But first, the news with Aaron Armstrong.
Thanks, Josh. Good evening to you. It's 7 minutes here in the GB newsroom.
Reform UK is calling for Chancellor Rachel Reeves to be investigated over potential breaches of the ministerial code. Nigel Farage has written to the Prime Minister's ethics advisor, saying her behaviour before and during the budget meets the threshold for an inquiry. The Chancellor has denied accusations of misleading the country with an overly pessimistic view of the country's finances in order to raise taxes. Despite the Office for Budget Responsibility, the OBR, saying it informed the Treasury there was a budget surplus rather than a black hole. The Chancellor remains adamant tax rises were necessary.
Well, the Office of Budget Responsibility have published their numbers. I've now delivered the budget. That budget is consistent with the speech that I made at the beginning of November to cut the cost of living, to cut NHS waiting lists and to cut the debt and the deficit. I said in that speech that everyone would need to contribute, but I kept that contribution as low as possible by asking those with the broadest shoulders.
Just for the record, would you welcome an investigation that could draw a line under this, whether you misled the markets and taxpayers or not?
I don't think that that is necessary. The Office of Budget Responsibility have published their numbers.
The new left-wing movement known as Your Party's voted against having a single leader, opting instead for a collective model. It is a setback to Jeremy Corbyn, who previously said he backed the sole leader model and would stand for the position. Members voted to put a committee in charge that MPs will be barred from standing for, and they also confirmed the party name. The collective model has been supported by Mr Corbyn's rival and co-founder Zara Sultana, who has been speaking today at the inaugural conference in Liverpool. The US Secretary of State says he expects talks with Ukrainian officials taking place in Florida to yield progress in bringing an end to Russia's war. Marco Rubio, US Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and Donald Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner are meeting a delegation from Kyiv to discuss Washington's proposed framework, which critics say favours Russia. Further talks between the US and Vladimir Putin are expected in Moscow next week. At least 6 people were killed and dozens more wounded across Ukraine over the weekend as a result of Russian attacks. Israel's Prime Minister has officially asked the country's president to pardon him from long-running corruption allegations. Benjamin Netanyahu has been facing criminal proceedings for the past 5 years over charges of bribery, fraud and breach of trust. It's in connection with 3 separate cases. He has continued to deny any wrongdoing and says the trial hinders his ability to govern. And the former West Ham captain and manager Billy Bonds has died at the age of 79. The defender and midfielder holds the club's all-time record for most appearances, 799 games. Billy Bonds played between 1967 and 1988, as well as captaining West Ham to FA Cup victories in 1975 and 1980. He also managed them from 4 years to 1994. And those are your headlines. I'll be back with more at 8 o'clock.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are, online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Welcome to Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Howie. This is the show where we cast our gaze across the spectrum of culture, current affairs and politics, and we do our best to bring a bit of common sense to that which has become senseless. Now, we're going to kick things off in Australia, who are once again debating the burka after Senator Pauline Hanson appeared in Parliament wearing one, prompting a 1-week suspension and a formal censure. Some, including Green Senators Mehreen Faruqi and Fatima Payman, condemned the stunt as offensive and divisive and even racist. Hanson says she was protesting the rejection of her bill to ban full face coverings. While many dismiss her record as inflammatory, the backlash has reignited questions about whether progressive politicians can champion women's rights while avoiding criticism of conservative Islamic practices. I am now joined by journalist and commentator Khadija Khan and teacher and Labour activist Aisha Ali Khan. Welcome to the show. Thank you. Let's get straight into it. Aisha, what do you think? Is it racist to wear the burqa if you're not actually a Muslim? Do you think her actions were racist?
I don't think they were racist. I think what she was trying to do was raise awareness. And I think the method that she chose, the manner in which she chose to do it, offended some people. I think if you are going to talk about it, if you are wanting to raise awareness, I think it would have been more helpful to actually speak to Muslim women and see and get them on board and maybe take some advice from them. Because if you're trying to be a voice for people, it's important that you are listening to them as well and able to be able to speak on their behalf.
Fair enough. Well, I'm speaking to an ex-Muslim person who has been through this, and that's the interesting point here, is that it's because it's about coercion. You know, some Muslim women may be saying that it's a choice for them, but of course, for many Muslim women, it's not. And of course, it leads to them being murdered in places like Iran.
Yeah, let's be clear what we are talking about. We are talking about burqa, and this is not a benign piece of clothing. It comes with an ideology which is deeply misogynistic and inherently discriminatory toward women and girls. And what should we be worried about? It's not that Senator Hinson, she was wearing the burqa in the Senate. We should be worried about how this one piece of clothing, already known as a tool of women's oppression, has been elevated to the status of a sacred symbol of good-for-nothing religious modesty, where you cannot challenge it, where you cannot criticize it, where you cannot even talk about it. When women, they want to criticize this practice, they are vilified, they are treated as pariahs, and people who raise objections about this progressive practice here in the West, they are labeled as Islamophobic and racist. Now, what she did was neither Islamophobic nor racism. She exercised her democratic right. She wanted to introduce a bill to ban all face coverings, including burqa and niqab, and she was prevented. And she was prevented. That is what worrisome, in my opinion. That is an anti-democratic attitude.
So and it should be able to get this discussed.
Exactly. That should not be happening in the West, in free democratic society. And I'm afraid that this kind of anti-democratic attitude are also taking roots here in the UK, where you cannot talk about this attire, where you cannot call for a ban on this attire, despite the fact that they're here in the West, there are women and girls who are being subjected to torture and bad treatment by their own family members. Just 2 days, or I think 3 days ago, an 18-year-old Muslim girl, she was murdered by her own brother in Netherlands because she had shamed the family by having a boyfriend and refusing to wear a hijab. Now, this is not an isolated case, because such cases always garner, attention from the media when these innocent girls and young women, they are either subject to torture, unabated torture, violence, or they are killed by their own family member in the name of honor. So let's call a spade a spade. There is a problem that needs to be discussed. It is related with women's rights. And, this unholy alliance with Islamists, between Islamists and the liberal left, who are afraid to, talk about it. I think it's quite ironic, because liberal people, they are all willing to sacrifice all hard-earned women's rights on the altar of multiculturalism and political correctness. However, this aspiration has never been reciprocated by the Islamists.
Well, so, Aisha, do you agree that there is like an hypocrisy here where with the left obviously particularly focusing on women's rights, yet at the same time this is arguably shuts down women's rights and also then shuts down debate about it, because I think there are 23 countries where a burqa is banned, including, by the way, Muslim countries. Yes.
So I agree with so much what Khadija has said. I don't agree in why the burqa. I don't think it's mandatory in Islam. Mm-hmm. It's a cultural practice which has basically become normalised in countries like Iran and Afghanistan, and it is
increasingly in the UK.
Of course, I'm going to come to that point. It is a tool. It is used to silence and erase women. We've seen what's going on in Afghanistan, and it's horrific. And in the UK, obviously, I feel like I've spoken about this before as well. If we were to basically tell women what to wear, this is acceptable, that is acceptable, we are doing exactly what the men are doing. And if you really want to help and support Muslim women, to empower them, and I think that's what Senator Hanson was trying to do, but the way she did it, basically, for me, it just caused it brought so much negative attention.
But it did bring attention.
Well, the attention, as far as I'm concerned, we do need to talk about what it is, what are the barriers that are stopping Muslim women from engaging in mainstream society. Is it lack of education? Is it lack of confidence? Is it just lack of, knowing what to do? I mean, I've worked with Muslim women. I'm from a town called Keighley. I've worked in Bradford. I've helped Muslim women fill out application forms, go to the local bus station and see how to get on a bus. Go and open a bank account.
Is that going to make them more likely to not wear the burqa? Because
this is if you want to help Muslim women, you can't just say, well, don't wear this piece of clothing, because that's not going to automatically lead them to be able to participate in mainstream society.
But if it was banned, if it was made illegal, then it wouldn't be a choice in that if it's the men who are forcing this to happen, then they can't make that happen anymore. I mean,
the danger is, if we ban it completely, what is going to happen is that the men will not allow the women to leave the house or go anywhere without wearing this burqa. And if that is banned, then women will not be allowed to leave, and therefore they will be further marginalised. And that, for me, is the bigger issue here. And I do feel there are elements within our communities. Obviously, Khadija and I are from the same background, and the elements are still there. There's coercive control, there's financial abuse, there's domestic abuse, there's sexual abuse, sexual violence. And these are issues that we really need to talk about. Talking about a piece of clothing is not going to change the outlook for these women. If you genuinely want to help these women, then let's empower them.
I agree with everything you're saying. I just wonder if you can do both of these things. I mean, we're talking about coercion of men or coercion of the state, and which one is worse?
I mean, let's be honest about it, that how long we are going to wait for something that can, urge us to ban it or just, encourage people not to wear it. We know that it is an imposition by the women, Muslim women. They are pressured by the society, by their family. They face legal sanctions in some countries, and they face physical assault, rape, execution, murder in the name of honor. This is all happening not only in Muslim-majority countries here in the West. 10-year-old Sarah Sharif, she was made to wear a hijab to cover her injuries. This exposes that this attire is a tool that is used not only to inflict oppression on women and girls, but also to hide their oppression behind the folds of clothing. So we need to understand there is an urgent need to address this issue. We cannot, now, for example, FGM, there are people who believe that FGM is a religious and cultural practice. They do want their girls, as young as 6-year-old girls, to go through this brutal and inhuman procedure. Are we going to listen to their, concern and grievances? Because when we ban here in the UK, FGM, we are actually infringing upon their rights. So let's be honest. Yes, we have rights, equal rights for everyone. But when those rights are infringing upon other people's right, we have to call them out. We have to talk about it. We have to have a discussion about it. And visionaries in the society, they are sometimes required to intervene to protect the most persecuted, the most vulnerable people, minorities within minorities. And this cannot be done without offending the oppressors of these people. So we cannot just look up to the people when they will give us the permission, to ban it or to just stop people wearing. We have to have a discussion, encourage people to just participate in this discussion, and we have to do something about it, because we know that only those girls and those, women, when they are subject to unabated violence or in unfortunate cases when they are killed in the name of honor, only then we hear about these girls and women. Most of them, they suffer in silence.
Well, you wrote a very touching piece this week about your own experiences with the hijab. Very quickly before we have to move on, Aisha, Do you think that the left has a problem even just talking about this stuff? We're talking about talking to Muslim women. What about talking to the left so we can at least start having an adult conversation about this issue?
We do. We absolutely have an issue, and it's not just this issue around how men are oppressing Muslim women, how Muslim men are oppressing Muslim women. We've seen it with the grooming gangs as well. People wouldn't talk about it, I mean, I come from a town called Keighley where I saw my own friends groomed and sexually abused and exploited. And 40 years later, 30 years later, I'm still seeing it, and it's heartbreaking. But again, the more we talk about it, which is obviously what we're doing, the more we're going to break down the stigma, we're going to break down the walls of shame and so on. But we've also got to look at it from a different perspective. And a few years ago, we were talking about banning Sharia councils, and I was absolutely in favour. Yes, they're wrong, let's get rid. But when I actually did my own research about this and I spoke to lots of people on the ground, I realised that for a Muslim woman to then seek a divorce, she would have, instead of going to a Sharia council here, she'd have to go to a Muslim country.
All right, well, next week, join us for a debate on Sharia councils. Next on Free Speech Nation, it's time for our audience questions. But before we go, big round of applause for our two... We went like a minute over.
Sorry.
We've got 5. Oh, no, we're not cutting. We're staying with me. We're not...
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Free Speech Nation. My comedian guests this evening are Aileen McQueen and Steve N. Allen. I like that. That's good weight. I like this weight.
Yeah. this is what they do. The hot girls on Instagram wave like this to show their nails. So
okay, I wouldn't know that. Steve, how do the hot boys wave?
I'm glad you. How do you know that I'm on those accounts? That's up to me what I watch in my spare time.
Fair enough. Well, look, let's get into our audience questions. Our first one is from Chris.
Does Paddington Paddington Bear know it's snowing this year in Gaza?
Does Paddington Bear know it's snowing this year in Gaza? You got there, Chris?
Sorry.
This is good. No, you do not need to apologise, my friend. I appreciate you asking the question that was definitely not planned for you. So, this is about two politically charged songs, a Paddington Bear migrant ballad and a Palestinian lullaby, raising funds for Gaza. They're competing for this year's Christmas #1. Critics want the BBC to tread carefully amid ongoing allegations of political bias as both tracks gain major exposure. So this is an interesting one, AD. I don't know if you've heard either of these
No, I haven't heard
classic
them.
songs here. But I sort of miss the old days where we just had stupid Christmas #1s, didn't we?
Well, I think the Paddington Bear song is absolutely fine. You know, people are imbuing it with too much meaning, and it's their interpretation of it. It's just about a bear who wants to live in the UK.
It's about a bear, Steve, who comes over on a small boat from Syria.
That's the thing, is that they say this song compares Paddington to migrants, and I think the reason why there's not a backlash against Paddington is because he's only one. If the story was net migration this year was one person or bear, we probably wouldn't even mention it, I imagine. And he's also not in a hotel, so it barely gets mentioned. But you could ignore the top 10 at Christmas. I've been doing that for years, and it's a great theory.
Well, Paddington Bear is the one asylum seeker or migrant who has been accepted to live with a middle-class family. This is the one guy they've actually let in. Do you think the Paddington Bear would be a very different story if he brought over his wife and cousins? Cousin bears.
Well, he's a bear, so I assume he's gay, but I don't know who he might bring over.
The people who laughed at that reveal themselves.
Yeah. As knowledgeable, well done.
Knowledgeable,
yeah.
yes, knowing.
But as Stephen was saying, that what were you saying earlier, that they won't be happy until there's a song about...
Send Paddington back, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you do a #1 song, like Send Paddington Back, see which gets to the top of the charts, and we can solve this all in one.
Stealing on marmalade.
Yeah, and the Gaza song, look, great, raise money. I just hope that the money actually gets to people who need it, because I think there's a story recently I read about £500 million basically went to the Muslim Brotherhood that was meant to go to Gaza. I'm not, But, you guys buy whichever song you want. Let's read an RR from the BBC. They have said, we play a wide range of music across our stations. We don't have specific policies on tracks or ban any songs. Decisions on what we play are always made with the relevant audiences and context in mind. Our next question is from Jeff.
Are atheist chaplains needed in warfare?
Oh, yeah, atheist chaplains in warfare. The British Army has appointed its first non-religious chaplain, prompting criticism from some veterans and politicians who call the move politically correct. Supporters, including the MOD, say the role reflects the growing number of service members with no religious affiliation and follows recommendations for broader pastoral care. What do you reckon to this? Do you think it's important to have a chaplain who doesn't believe in God?
Yes, I do. I think you should fit the beliefs of the people needing the help with somebody of a similar kind of
denomination or non-denomination. Well, what do you think in the trenches, and there's gunfire and mortars, and then someone sort of calls the chaplain, the humanitarian chaplain, and says, "Please read me some Richard Dawkins."
Yeah, I'm religious, but I definitely think there should be humanist chaplains. I thought there was, and they were probably called counsellors. Is it just not a rebranding of counselling? I mean, personally, I wouldn't like it if I went to the chaplain and he just went, "Don't worry, dear, nothing happens when you die. Bye-bye." It wouldn't really console me that much. But it's just like going to sleep, except there's your bot exploded. But I definitely think it's very important that they have people that you can talk to about things, and maybe talk to about philosophy and the likes of that.
Yeah, but what a humanitarian chaplain is just going to be like, "You're dead.
Yeah, get over it. Nothing matters anyway. Yeah, I don't know. As the representative of the godless of society that I am here, I don't need one. That's the weird thing about it. Like in the article, it was defining humanist chaplains as being motivated by reason and logic. Well, more logic would say, why send chaplains to a place where they're not needed? Because unless you're trained in fighting, you've just upped your potential body count, effectively. More people over there who might end up being killed in conflict. You send more soldiers rather than more people to back up the atheists who don't need them.
There we go. All right. That's exactly the kind of answer you would expect from a godless heathen. Next question is from John.
Do microaggressions kill?
Do microaggressions kill? And I love how you sort of have that dramatic pause before Yeah, it was very intimidating.
He almost gave me an anti-Irish stare, like he was whispering, Pat.
So this is a leaked Bank of England training slide that warns that workplace microaggressions can contribute to chronic stress, potentially increasing risks of heart disease and diabetes among ethnic minority staff. The materials created after the 2020 George Floyd protests cite US research linking discrimination-related stress to hypertension and poorer health outcomes. So, John, it was all a little bit mental around 2020. Did you ever attend any of these sort of educational classes? I mean, I guess you have to be employed.
No, fortunately, I kicked the work habit at the age of 45.
Wow.
But this time, microaggression is, of course, a woke shibboleth. But I have my own version of microaggressions, which is how I deal with snails in my garden. I gather them up and put them in the microwave.
That's a literal microwave.
John, there's a humanist chaplain I'm going to get to have a word with you. So, yes, microaggressions. Do you remember those good old... It's funny for me to sort of... I laugh at microaggressions now, just after being, like, you know, repeated death threats for the last 2 years that I've had, but...
Macroaggressions.
Like, break me on, I love a microaggression.
So there's two types of people in the world. There's people who kind of go by and just kind of get on with it and do their best. And then there's people who are very sensitive and take everything on board. Now, sometimes the sensitive people can draw in the getting on with others into their world. But I used to be very aware of people being anti-Irish and calling me Paddy and saying things to me and asking me what it was like and saying potato. And then I just stopped caring.
By the way, it's potato.
I stopped caring because I realised people in general, they're not meaning any harm. I mean, I went out with quite a posh British guy that you might be aware of, and he used to go, you Irish always think this and you Irish always think that. But I did the same to him all the time. And was so, you know, you...
What was his name?
Don't worry about that.
The king, I think. So,
yeah, it was Prince Andrew. Yeah. But then I did my GCSEs and it stopped. But...
That should have got a bigger laugh, by the way.
Yeah.
I loved it. They were unsure there for a second.
Yeah, it's
free
not
speech
true.
laughter. Microaggressions?
Yeah, well, as a sciencey nerd, micro as a prefix means a millionth. So even if it takes you 2 seconds to do one, it would take 23 solid days worth of microaggressing someone to make one aggression.
Wow.
If you do that, go to a tribunal. But I love the fact that they've linked this to diabetes. We know that there's an increased risk of diabetes in certain ethnic groups. I knew somehow it would be white people's fault. And I thought, OK, well, if this is the case, let's Google to see if they've got a lot of diabetes in the Caribbean and have a look yourself. It's a surprising answer that will elucidate.
Well, they don't do much microaggression in the Caribbean. Our final question for the moment is from Chris.
Is gay wool the new fashion trend?
Yes, gay wool, the new fashion trend. Of course, that's what you're wearing this evening, your jumper. Gay wool jumper. Designer Michael Schmidt showcased a collection in New York that's been modelled by Chris here, made from the wool of gay rams, aiming to raise awareness and save them from slaughter. Partnering with Rainbow Wool and Grindr, the line highlights that homosexuality occurs in animals and challenges anti-LGBT views. This is an interesting story. Are you wearing gay underwear?
Underwear is gay, if you ask me. The thing, right, so I come from a farming background, and It's interesting. I actually know for a fact that most sheep are very homophobic, and traditionally people think that sheep say "ba," but actually, if you listen very closely, they're actually saying "ba." I'm not going to finish it. But it's actually, I think it's a brilliant publicity stunt, but I would say that this might not be true, because 80% of rams, when they're born, are castrated, so they become gender neutral. Because the rams kill each other in the field, so they don't want many of them. So one ram will service 30 yo sheep. So I don't, there are gay animals for sure, or there's kind of animals that are a bit disinterested in sex, but they don't kill them. That's been my experience. That's my truth, and I have to stand by it.
We've got the truth. Oh, very controversial stuff there. So they, them rams, I think it's 8% I read in this article was saying that 8% of rams are gay.
Yeah.
That's all good.
Yeah, it's fine, but I love the idea that there's a market for this, though, that someone only wants a jumper made of gay wool, in the same that there might be people of the asexual community who only want polyester that was developed by scientists that don't have sex, which is going to have all scientists. That's one way of doing it. But it doesn't make any sense. I mean, it's more about just raising awareness, because they've now got a farm where they've taken these rescued gay rams.
Unfortunately, it's only going to last for one generation.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, next on Free Speech Nation are the BACP, the BPS and the UKCP, their therapist bodies. Are they encouraging different approaches to treating gender dysphoria? Or are they institutionally captured? We had 3 therapists from those organisations to discuss that with us. A very important story. See you in 2 minutes. Oh yeah, and we do lots of clapping.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there, and this is your holiday forecast from the Met Office. It's a little bit changeable across Europe over the next week or so. We do have a few showers across the Canary Islands to begin with, but some nice bright sunshine for Spain, maybe just feeling a little bit cooler than normal here. For northern Italy, we do have some heavier showers to begin with, and we do have some nice bright sunnier spells for Greece. Now, it does remain a bit unchangeable over the next few days, but for Tenerife, the temperatures are slowly on the rise.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello again, and welcome to your latest GB News weather update from the Met Office. It's set to turn much wetter and windier as we move into meteorological winter. Some flooding possible in places on Monday, and an amber weather warning in place across parts of Wales. It's all thanks to this frontal system pushing in from the southwest, bringing with it a wedge of much milder air, but the isobars close together, so it will also turn quite a lot windier. And that's the case for this evening as well. So we've already got some rain pushing in from the west. Weather warnings coming into place overnight tonight. So a pretty wet and windy picture for most of us by the time we get to tomorrow morning. The rain particularly heavy out towards the west and over the high ground. After a chilly start to the evening, look at these temperatures by the end of the night, 10 or 11 degrees Celsius. So a much, much milder start to the day on Monday compared to on Sunday. But it will be wet and windy, as I say. Some really blustery winds through the morning across the south and the southwest. Gales around the coasts. Outbreaks of rain as well, particularly persistent over the higher ground of Wales and western parts of England. Some heavy bursts here shown by these brighter shades on the map. Across western parts of Northern Ireland, western parts of Scotland. Well, here, something a little bit drier perhaps coming in, at least for a time on Monday morning. Perhaps even a few sunny spells, but still wet across the northeast of Scotland. It stays wet and windy for most of us through the day on Monday, particularly across England and Wales. That rain persistent and heavy for some western areas, so some flooding likely by the afternoon, particularly across Wales. Dry and brighter for many parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland. Some sunshine here, but the rain might just flip once again back across southern parts of Scotland. And look at these temperatures, 12 to 14 degrees Celsius, so a much milder day to come. For Tuesday, it's a bit more straightforward. Sunshine and blustery showers. The wind strongest up towards the northwest, where there'll be some heavy showers, potentially even some rumbles of thunder. Driest towards the east, with the best of the sunshine here. Through the middle part of the week, it stays quite changeable, a mixture of sunshine and showers, but generally temperatures quite close to average for the time of year.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Cates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Howie. Are Britain's top therapy bodies encouraging different approaches to treating gender dysphoria? Former leaders suggest they are. Dr. Christian Buckland, ousted from the UK Council of Psychotherapy, says activist influence is pushing children towards medical transition rather than exploring underlying issues. Other ex-chairs warn that ideological pressures, not child safety, are shaping therapy, leaving parents unsure whether their child's needs or activist agendas come first. Well, I am now joined by UKCP registered psychotherapist Alistair Stockeld, counsellor and clinical supervisor Terry Patterson, and senior lecturer in psychology at Lancaster University, Dr. Katie Alcock. So this is an incredibly... Oh yes, let's have a round of applause, sorry. I just want to get straight to it because this is very important. So, look, this is vitally important, especially when we've seen this puberty trial possibly seemingly going ahead and places like the Tavistock closed down now. So the point is, how do these children get treatment that isn't medicalised? So, Alistair, first of all, let's talk about it. The organisation that you're part of, how has it been, as the argument goes, institutionally captured by trans ideology?
I found it utterly impossible to have a serious, reasoned, professional conversation with anyone in the organisation about how the problem of gender identity might be addressed.
And you joined I believe you joined the magazines, but they put out, all these organisations, they put out magazines.
We put out a quarterly journal, which is the main channel of communication.
I imagine to talk about issues about therapy.
Well, to talk, to think together, to reason, to use evidence. When the gender problem emerged on the horizon, it was completely new. We had a sudden upsurge of very young people, very vulnerable people, being told and believing that it was possible to change sex. And we had absolute professional silence on this matter. So I was aware that there were colleagues with a growing body of experience in treating these young people. They were publishing books, they were writing papers, and you would think that a proper professional body would disseminate these for general thinking. And I was told there's no way we're going to be publishing any of that kind of thing.
Well, this is a huge problem, Terry, because if these organisations are captured, then we're not actually learning about other ways that these children could be treated. And for the people who aren't familiar with these issues, I guess the way it gets split up is there's the kind of affirmative therapy, which is, yes, someone comes in and says, I feel like a girl. You go, yes, you are definitely a girl. And then that can, of course, lead to medicalisation. And then there's talking therapy, which could be because there are all these other underlying factors like autism, like a previous history of abuse. And then that has not being sort of facilitated by, what, your organisation that you're part of?
Yes, so I'm a member of BACP. It's the largest therapy professional body in the UK of over 70,000 members. And what we've found, I'm part of Thoughtful Therapists, is a campaigning group, and what we've found is that there's a complete capture of the institution. They really will not touch this. They completely promote a very pro-trans narrative. They expect you to believe in gender identity and to believe in the ideology, and they will push this non-stop through all their publications, through their training events, through their guidelines and policies. through their public statements. I think you've got a slide coming up about that. And on this, at the same time, they completely suppress any alternative viewpoints. So we've tried and raise concerns about the impacts of their policies on children, especially vulnerable children who really shouldn't need to be going through these medical procedures. We've tried to raise this with them many, many times over the last 4 years. We've written to them hundreds of times. We've had open letters, petitions. We have written to the ethics committees about it. We've tried everything you can think of, but they still won't look at this. They won't even comment on the CAS review. That's how bad it is.
So, I mean, Katie, if you, with the organisation that you're a member of, you've tried to get involved, you've tried to raise these discussions, but essentially been shut out.
Yeah, so I'm a member of the British Psychological Society, and every undergraduate degree in psychology in the UK has to be accredited by this. So if your son or daughter is going to university to study psychology, their degree must be accredited by them. So they put out some guidelines for professional psychologists working with clients who are unsure around sex and gender issues, and they were, again, completely, the only thing to do was affirm if a child comes to you and says that they want to change sex, to say, yes, you can do that. And we wrote to them, about a group of psychologists, we became very concerned about this. We wrote to them and said, what is this? We thought that this was about science. This is not what the science says. I'm not a therapist, I'm a scientist and a researcher. And we thought, well, this is wrong. Why are you doing this? And so they basically shut us down. They took down the the guidance for kids, but they have not replaced it. They said, OK, we're going to set up a committee to write new guidance. As far as I know, I'm the only researcher in the UK who works on this aspect of children's thinking. I applied to be on it. I've worked with the Department for Education, and you'd think I would be a shoo-in, but they didn't appoint me, and they still haven't produced any guidance.
Well, this is it. So there's lack of guidance, and from the organisation, when we know that I think it's 85% of children will just naturally outgrow these feelings. Do you think that the organisation is going to listen at all? I mean, how are you meant to, as a therapist, get guidance from your governing body, I guess, to treat kids?
Well, there's no guidance available at this moment in time, and there aren't even the basic processes from which to generate it.
Wow. So, I mean, that's the problem, isn't it, Terry? Like, we're trying to deal with the fact that to stop this needless medicalisation of children.
Yeah.
But the other alternative, then, is this talking therapy. But if the bodies themselves aren't actually pushing, showing that, discussing that, allowing that, discussing the best ways for that to happen, then the children aren't being served, right?
Well, one of the recommendations of the CAS review was that professional bodies need to come together and show leadership and provide guidance on the management of this population. And they've completely failed to do that. None of them have produced any guidance for us. So to the unsuspecting therapist out there who's just doing their job and not really aware of these debates, they wouldn't have a clue what to do. They would go along with what they think is expected of them, which is promoted everywhere you look in these organisations, which is to affirm and to support. It's never to challenge, never to look at any alternative explanations. It's purely to just go along with the child or the young person.
Well, let's show that image, because when the Supreme Court ruled that sex refers to biological sex, this is what your organisation put out, right? The BSCP, which essentially shows how captured they are. We offer our support to the TNBGQ community, not just at this incredibly difficult time, but to let you know we are standing alongside you always. So that doesn't suggest that there's sort of looking at the totality of this issue at all. They seem to obviously go, this is what we think, and the Supreme Court, the law of this land, is a terrible thing for these vulnerable children.
Absolutely, and they're completely immovable on it. They won't look at any alternatives. They suppress any kind of questions that we raise. This leaves children and young people. I mean, therapists, there are 70,000 BSCP therapists. They're working in children's services and they're working in CAMS services, schools, universities. what chance have they got to have any decent therapy that's going to actually help them to think through what they're thinking of doing and understand themselves better and make sense of what's going on for them? They're not going to get any proper therapy. Therapists are too scared to do any challenge these days. You know, if we challenge it, we risk being disciplined. That's the problem.
That's the thing. So what can be done here? I mean, if you've all actually tried to make a difference, Katie, but nothing seems to be getting through to, I'm imagining, a very small cohort of people at the top who have this ideology and won't budge on it.
I mean, I would really like parents to be more aware of how their children develop. So little kids genuinely think that if a boy puts on a dress, he turns into a girl. They also think that if a cat puts on a dog mask, it genuinely turns into a dog. And parents they're not aware of how immature their kids' thinking is. And they come to the parents and say, I want to be the opposite sex. The parent says, oh, what should I do? And then finds out that all the material out there says, affirm them, tell them they can be the opposite sex. And I think that what we need is for parents to know how their kids develop. But doctors don't know this, teachers don't know this. So
that's it. But if they're spending money, they go, well, my child needs some therapy, and then the therapists can't even discuss these issues openly, and it's just been put forward as one view, then that's a danger to the kids, arguably. Well, look, thank you so much for joining us. Alistair Stockwell, Terry Patterson and Dr. Katie Alcock. Big round of applause for them. We have approached the BACP, the BPS and the UKCP for comment, awaiting their response. Next on Free Speech Nation, as thousands seek refuge in England's churches, can the church handle their conservative views? See you in 2 minutes. Thank you so much.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, this is Jubes & Co with you.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here. GBNews,
Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Go. No, OK, too late for clapping now. No, forget it. None of you clap. Right, welcome back to Free Speech Nations. So, some supporters from recent UK rallies are turning towards Christianity, not out of a newfound belief particularly, but as a way to defend what they see as traditional British identity. Church leaders are split. Some welcome conversations with newcomers, while others warn that Christian symbols are being used to fuel division. The debate is exposing deeper tensions over faith, culture and national identity. I'm now joined by GB News contributor Connie Shaw. Hey, Connie, how are you doing?
Josh.
Now you can... Oh, you clap for her, do you? This is a really interesting story. It's sort of rose from the Raise the Flags, the big Tommy Robinson protest, I guess it was, and it seems like more people are embracing Christianity, but as a sort of as in a cultural way.
Yeah.
But what does that mean for church leaders, certainly the CFE particularly, which a lot of people say is like a very sort of woke institution?
Yeah, well, like you said, the Church of England is seen as a bit woke now. There has been a huge increase in people converting to Catholicism. The stat is about a third of Catholic priests ordained in England and Wales since 1992 are actually converts from the Church of England. So there's obviously that increase. The Catholic Church has seen a lot more churchgoers, whilst the Church of England has seen a lot of churchgoers decline in numbers. The Church of England, despite their their policies saying that they're inclusive, they welcome people of all faiths and none, and I assume that also extends to political views. And now they are expressing a little bit of concern about the fact of people of certain political persuasions, perhaps people who went on the Unite the Kingdom rally in September, are using Christian symbols and the Christian faith and church as a new identitarian aspect to their politics, rather than actually finding faith in God.
Is there anything wrong with that? I mean, certainly in Judaism, the rabbis don't care whether you believe any of it. They're just like, just do it. But the cultural element of Christianity has kind of almost been ignored. Like, we think, oh, look, we just have our Western values miraculously appear out of thin air. But of course, they're Judeo-Christian values that have taken a millennia to form.
Yeah, I think I have a lot of sympathy for it, and the story was covered by the BBC, and it was centred around a man called Gareth who went on the Unite the Kingdom rally, and he said he hasn't necessarily found faith in God, but has started going back to church, and he's very concerned about the rise of Islamic sectarianism in our politics and generally around the country. And I really sympathise, if not completely agree with that view. I grew up as a very ardent atheist. I wrote my EPQ at school about how I thought the Catholic Church and Catholicism had very similar ideals to European fascist ideology. But now I find myself wanting to embrace the fact that I am from a cultural Christian country, and I think that because of secularisation, we almost have what Dietrich Bonhoeffer, he was a rebel against the Nazi regime, described as a Western void, that because there had been a decline in church-going and Christianity, that left a huge void to be filled by basically quasi-religions, in his situation, fascism and communism in Europe. But now, in our day, in the UK and across the West, it's, for example, woke ideology, whatever that means, just authoritarianism, particularly from the left and what people who would call themselves progressives, trans ideology that many people can see is like a new modern version of a religion, and Islamism. It's been because we have lost a cultural grounding in Christianity, that means that other things have been able to take that place, and it's quite a conflicting avenue for atheists who are in the anti-woke movement, who are having to decide or pair up with people who are very evangelical. I remember being at the art conference, Jordan Peterson's conference earlier this year, and there was a lot of evangelical Christianity going on, and speaking to a few people who were atheists, it was quite difficult to reconcile, because we're all there for similar reasons, to save Western civilization, but that is a tricky thing to reconcile. But the thing with the Church of England is that they haven't been afraid to make quite bold political statements before, you know. They have said previously, or at least their council has recommended, that they raise £1 billion for reparations for slavery. There are Church of England churches that fly the Pride Progress flag. So if you're going to embrace those sorts of politics, the best option is to not take any political view on contentious issues. You have to be accepting of everyone, and ultimately there are going to be bad actors who are of all different political symbols, whether you're holding a Palestinian flag, a St George's flag, or a crucifix or a cross. So I think that if they want to stopped the decline of their churches. This is possibly the worst thing they could do, is to show resistance towards people who they may actually be able to convert, not just from being a cultural Christian, but to actually end up finding faith.
Well, let's see if they listen to you. That's the end of the first hour on Free Speech Nation. Don't go away, there's lots more to come, including Graeme Linhan. Before we go, Connie Shaw!
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello again and welcome to your latest GB News weather update from the Met Office. It's set to turn much wetter and windier as we move into meteorological winter. Some flooding possible in places on Monday and an amber weather warning in place across parts of Wales. It's all thanks to this frontal system pushing in from the southwest, bringing with it a wedge of much milder air, but the isobars close together, so it will also turn quite a lot windier. And that's the case for this evening as well. So we've already got some rain pushing in from the west. Weather warnings coming into place overnight tonight. So a pretty wet and windy picture for most of us by the time we get to tomorrow morning. The rain particularly heavy out towards the west and over the high ground. After a chilly start to the evening, look at these temperatures by the end of the night, 10 or 11 degrees Celsius. So a much, much milder start to the day on Monday compared to on Sunday. But it will be wet and windy, as I say. Some really blustery winds through the morning across the south and the southwest. Gales around the coasts. Outbreaks of rain as well, particularly persistent over the higher ground of Wales and western parts of England. Some heavy bursts here shown by these brighter shades on the map. Across western parts of Northern Ireland, western parts of Scotland. Well, here, something a little bit drier perhaps coming in, at least for a time on Monday morning. Perhaps even a few sunny spells, but still wet across the northeast of Scotland. It stays wet and windy for most of us through the day on Monday, particularly across England and Wales. That rain persistent and heavy for some western areas, so some flooding likely by the afternoon, particularly across Wales. Dry and brighter for many parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland. Some sunshine here, but the rain might just flip once again back across southern parts of Scotland. And look at these temperatures, 12 to 14 degrees Celsius, so a much milder day to come. For Tuesday, it's a bit more straightforward. Sunshine and blustery showers. The wind strongest up towards the northwest, where there'll be some heavy showers, potentially even some rumbles of thunder. Driest towards the east, with the best of the sunshine here. Through the middle part of the week, it stays quite changeable, a mixture of sunshine and showers, but generally temperatures quite close to average for the time of year.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather.
It's the greatest cash prize of a Great British giveaway so far. A simply stunning £85,000 in tax-free cash to spend on anything you like, making 2026 your greatest year to date. That could get you that brand new car, extend and improve your home, take you away on that bucket list holiday, or just give you some peace of mind over the coming months. For a chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it? Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Plenty more still to come on Free Speech Nation this week, including our interview with Graeme Linhan, who's sitting right there, but you can't see him. First, though, we're going to get a news update from Aaron Armstrong.
Thank you, Josh. Good evening to you. 8 o'clock here in the GB newsroom. Reform UK is calling for the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, to be investigated over potential breaches of the ministerial code. Nigel Farage has written to the Prime Minister's ethics advisor, saying her behaviour before and during the budget meets the threshold for an inquiry. The Chancellor has denied accusations of misleading the country with an overly pessimistic view of the UK's finances in order to raise taxes, despite the Office for Budget Responsibility, the OBR, saying it had informed the Treasury there was a budget surplus rather than a black hole. Ms Reeves is adamant, though, tax rises were necessary to deliver stability.
That budget is consistent with the speech that I made at the beginning of November to cut the cost of living, to cut NHS waiting lists and to cut the debt and the deficit. I said in that speech that everyone would need to contribute, but I kept that contribution as low as possible by asking those with the broadest shoulders.
Just for the record, would you welcome an investigation that could draw a line under this, whether you misled the markets and taxpayers or not?
I don't think that that is necessary. The Office of Budget Responsibility have published their numbers.
The new left-wing party founded by Jeremy Corbyn and Zara Sultana will be called Your Party after all, after a vote by members at its inaugural conference. Members also voted against having a single leader, in a setback to Mr Corbyn, who previously said he would stand for the position. Instead, a committee of members will take charge, the model favoured by Miss Sultana, his rival, who went on to attack those at the top after boycotting the conference yesterday in protest at the expulsion of several people from the Socialist Workers' Party. 3 children have been confirmed to be among the at least 4 people killed in a mass shooting at a family gathering in California. 11 others were injured during the incident at a restaurant in the city of Stockton near San Francisco. Authorities say the victims were 8, 9, 14 and 21 years old. They've confirmed the suspect remains at large and the shooting may have been targeted. The US Secretary of State says he expects talks with Ukrainian officials taking place in Florida to yield progress in bringing an end to Russia's war. Marco Rubio, US Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and Donald Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner met a delegation from Kyiv to discuss Washington's proposed framework, which critics say closely resembles all of Russia's demands. Further talks between the US and Vladimir Putin are expected in the coming week in Moscow. Meanwhile, at least 6 people were killed and dozens more wounded across Ukraine over the weekend as a result of Russian attacks. More than 900 people are now known to have died after heavy monsoon rains across southern Asia. Officials in Indonesia say more than 440 people died there, with a further 402 missing after landslides and flooding. Emergency teams are now trying to reach some of the hardest hit areas of Sumatra. The death toll in Sri Lanka has risen sharply to 334, and more than 170 people were killed in Thailand. It is the worst natural disaster to hit the region in 2 decades since the devastating tsunami in 2004. The Israeli Prime Minister has officially asked the country's president to pardon him from long-running corruption allegations. Benjamin Netanyahu's been facing criminal proceedings for the past 5 years on charges of bribery, fraud and breach of trust in connection with 3 separate cases. He denies any wrongdoing and says the trial is hindering his ability to govern. And the former West Ham captain and manager Billy Bonds has died at the age of 79. The defender and midfielder holds the club's all-time record for most appearances, with 799 games he played for the club between 1967 and 1998. He captained the East London side to victories in the FA Cup, that was in 1975, and then 5 years later, and managed them for 4 years as well. West Ham held a period of appreciation to honour Bonds ahead of their 2-0 Premier League defeat at home to Liverpool earlier. Those are your headlines. I'll be back with more at 9.
Welcome back to Free Speech Nation. In a world where actors, artists and musicians often echo similar popular opinions, legendary writer of Father Ted and the IT crowd Graeme Linhan has become a controversial figure for his outspoken views on free speech and women's rights. Recently, the Irish comedy writer was cleared of harassing a trans activist. However, he was found guilty of damaging a phone during the incident. His arrest at Heathrow Airport, a different incident, by 5 armed officers over posts on X, had previously sparked widespread debate across the world over free speech and the UK's approach to online conduct. Following the recent verdict this week, the complainant said justice has finally been served and thanked the court for holding Linhan to account. But should this case, especially of harassment, have ever been brought to court in the first place? I'm now joined by comedian and sitcom writer Graeme Linhan. Welcome to the show. It's always a pleasure to see you, but of course you don't live here in the UK anymore. You live in America, and you have been forced to come back for this court case, which is now finally over.
Yes, but luckily paid for by the Free Speech Union, so I've used it as a chance to meet up with some people and enjoy London again. I forgot how well London does Christmas.
Yes.
It is one of the good things.
Well, we call it festive season.
Oh, OK, sorry. But yeah, no, so, yeah, and I mean, the whole point of it is to inconvenience you and to make your life a little bit unhappier than it could be.
You've literally got to fly over the world multiple times in this case.
Yes, absolutely. And you know, this guy who came after me, he actually did it before. He got a successful charge because he was putting his phone in the person's face and antagonising them, and they finally got annoyed and threw it away, or batted him away. And it's what he does. You know, he's one of the reasons I was kind of delighted when he decided to take it further is because this is a guy who really values his anonymity, because he's able to use it to infiltrate women's groups. Famously, he would wear like suffragette scarves, go in, start speaking to the women. He lied to a Let Women Speak group by saying he was a detransitioner. They trusted him, they swapped information and so on, and he used that information then to harass them, you know. He's been phoning up Posey Parker for 6 years. Christmas Day, he phones her to abuse her. I mean, I've said it on it's one of the things that he tried to get me into trouble for, but it is an actual fact. He is a sociopath, and he is a domestic terrorist because he's basically.
Let's just say he's not here to defend himself.
Yeah,
you know.
Well, but no, absolutely, that's true. Sorry, he's. But anyway,
he's not your best friend.
Well, let me put it this way. It's exactly the kind of thing that trans activists do. They cannot win debates. You know, that's why you never see them on shows like this. They cannot defend their ideas because their ideas are absurd.
And I would just like to say that if he is watching, you are absolutely welcome to come on the show and discuss gender ideology, because as you say, it's the trying to silence people, and it's not just you, it should be said. This is similar tactics have been used with a lot of women, as you mentioned, Kelly J. Keane, and other people, using the police to enforce their ideology.
Yes, because the police are basically, I think, you know, I've said this a lot, but I think what happened with the police was that the Macpherson report back in the day, that accused him of being institutionally racist. I think that really traumatized the police, and they wanted to make sure that they never get accused of something like that again. But they overcorrected, and now they're just arresting anyone who, you know, seems to be at odds with current left-wing orthodoxy. So they've been a very kind of weak police who seem to have lost their way. They don't really know what policing is for
Just using
anymore.
common sense. Just using common sense, being able to read a joke, read a tweet, and go, this is a joke. This is not a criminal
And also,
act.
it's easy to police the internet. You don't have to even get off your chair. You know, it's more difficult to investigate burglaries and rapes and so on. That actually takes police work. But I don't know. I mean, I used to think the internet would be a huge boon to the police, but it seems to have just corrupted them the way it's corrupted everyone else. You know.
Yeah. Well, what happened in this particular case was, I believe the initial complaint, actually, the police did use a bit of common sense and said, well, look, there's not any evidence here, there's not been a crime committed. What happened then was that it then was sort of put back to the police saying, look, if you don't take this forward, we're going to do X, Y, and Z. We're going to, you know, recommend you. We're going to take this further. And that's where the fear, rather the police at that point should have stood up and said, actually, no, we don't care. Do your worst. They were like, they went along with it. Yeah, and that's what led to the last year.
They were threatened with a judicial review, which apparently puts the fear of God into cops. And he's done that multiple times. This is another character called Lindsay Watson, who was actually fired from the police for sending abusive emails to his enemies.
So he basically knows how the police are going to react and how to play the police then.
Exactly. And luckily, I understand now that he's been called in for an interview, so maybe there'll be some justice there, you know. But, like, the point about all this that I find most frustrating is that, I mean, all the money they spent on trying me, they could easily sort out this problem in one go by arresting about 5 or 6 trans activists who are all friends with each other, who all coordinate online, and yet the police seem to think...
Well, perhaps not even arresting them, but just kind of going, just to stop doing their bidding.
Stop doing their bidding, but also, you know, I'll give you for me, the most extraordinary thing of the last few years is that, and I believe that some of the people involved in my case were involved in this, was that there was an attack on the LGBT Alliance conference in the centre of London, across the road from the Houses of Parliament, where thousands of insects were released. So this is a meeting of lesbian, gay, and bisexual people, and they released thousands of insects. Most people don't even know it happened. You know, surely that should be investigated. Surely that's a crime. But no, my tweets are a crime, you know. And I have to say, I thought they could have chosen better ones. I've been more extreme than that in other tweets, but for some reason they were the ones they chose, you know.
Well, there is a silver lining here because it has gone through court, and the judge essentially said, look, he said some stuff that I don't like or that is offensive, and you just kind of got to deal with it. And that's the whole purpose, really. You know, words aren't violence. Words are words.
Yeah.
And it seems like the more that these kind of cases come to court and the more the victories there are that there wasn't any kind of, that you were acquitted of harassment, hopefully that will finally lead to the end of courts being used this way.
Sure, but it shouldn't have taken this. It shouldn't have taken this. Common sense is just, like common sense policing, I don't know what has happened to the police force, but they seem to be frozen between wanting to be some sort of nannying service for the country and actually solving crimes, you know, and I think most people are agreed we'd rather they solve crimes.
Absolutely. Now, on a more personal level, frankly, you've been vindicated. This has been a long journey. I know you're still going. I know the fight continues. There still are issues that need to be dealt with, but it's far away from when you first started speaking out in 2017. Obviously, your personal life is very different in terms of your friends and some of your family. But do you feel like you're coming out the other side of it?
Yeah, I mean, I felt like that as soon as I went to the States. Really, I'm not a face in the States. I'm just Joe Schmo, which is what it was like when I came to London, and I always loved that about London. You know, being able to disappear, and that became less and less possible the longer I was in the UK. So it's nice to be able to go back and have some kind of anonymity, you know. But and you know, my reputation being beaten about by, you know, non-entities like Owen Jones is not as much of an issue over there. Now I get to be insulted by much more famous people like Bill Maher. So yeah, it's a step up in a lot of ways.
But is it? I mean, sorry, I don't want to like turn in some emotional thing here, but looking at the friendships that you had, you know, 20, 30 years of a lifetime of friendships, and you're looking back at these people you worked with as well, careers that you arguably helped to start.
Yes.
And
this sounds like an Ardal O'Hanlon question.
Well, no, just like, but is there going to be some level of closure? Has anybody kind of come forward and said, you know what, we totally messed up, we were cowards, and I'm sorry, mate?
No, quite the opposite. There's always criticisms of it. Like Ardal, when I phoned him, he went after me in the press, as always, and, you know, because none of these people have the guts to pick up a phone and actually talk to me. And I rang him, and I was very angry with him, and he switched from saying, I just don't agree with you, Graeme. And I said, wait, you agree with women and men in women's prisons and sports? And he goes, well, I don't know the issue, but it was the way you did it, you know? And my feeling is always the same. It's like, well, tell me how you did it, you know? To my knowledge, Ardal has never said a word about women in men's, or men in women's sports, or men in women's prisons, or children being mutilated and sterilised. He's never said a single word about it. So for these people to criticise me after this thing has completely destroyed my life is, you know, more than I can bear sometimes, you know? But I don't know. I'm just going to keep doing it and hope that these wins keep coming in and people, you know, one of the strangest things and the best things about what happened to me with the arrests is simply that I went from you know, shouting in what felt like a wind tunnel to suddenly everybody was able to hear me. And, you know, that's all I ever wanted. I just wanted to get these facts through, to get these situations through, to show what was happening to, you know, any woman who stood up against this stuff. And, yeah, it's kind of, I feel like we're beginning to cut through now.
Absolutely. Well, ladies and gentlemen, big round of applause, please, for Graeme Linhan.
Thank you.
It is worth saying Lindsay Watson is not here to defend some of these comments made. Again, Lindsay Watson is also welcome on the show. And following the verdict, Sophia Brooks, representing, as the complainant said, justice has finally been served. I'm just throwing always is also welcome on the show. Is going on here. Graeme, you were described as a plainly bigoted, bad-tempered thug and a criminal. There we go. Yeah. Next on Free Speech Nation, it is time for our audience questions. See you in 2 minutes.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Cates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Free Speech Nation with my comedian guests, Aideen McQueen and Steve and Alan. Yeah, let's give another round of applause. Yeah, we could make it. Yay! Aideen, you are wearing a jacket. In the section you were saying how your mother called up.
Yeah, she sent me a text and saying that she can see the outline of my bra. Okay. So.
Well, I mean, the problem is that our ratings have plummeted.
Okay.
Since you've put that.
Don't worry, I got it this time. Come on.
I can see your girdle.
No, thank you.
Right, we're going to get some questions from the audience. Our first question's from Jeff.
Hi again. Did a South Park skit from 6 years ago eventually become true?
Yeah, South Park skit from 6 years ago becoming true. Jamie Booker was stripped of her world's strongest title, or his world's strongest title, after organisers said he failed to disclose he was born a male. The runner-up, Andrea Thompson, is now declared the winner, following backlash from competitors and fans over fairness. Organisers emphasise that women's categories are strictly for athletes whose biological sex at birth is female, while maintaining an inclusive space on participation. So you were saying how you're a big South Park fan.
Well, yes, I'm waiting for the next Meghan Markle one to come out. That's what I'm looking for.
Yes, well, that will come out. Are you familiar with this sketch? It was like 6 years ago, and it was a guy with a beard, and he was like, "I'm the world's strongest man." And then here we are, 6 years later, and then that became reality.
I'm afraid I didn't see it, no.
Oh, well, it would be really good if you had. You're just obsessed with Meghan Markle, aren't you, Jeff? So, Aideen, world's strongest woman.
Well, mentally strongest woman after all the abuse I've had over my jacket. I think this is. I'm not against people transitioning. I think if you want to transition, absolutely do. But you're in such a privileged position in this world, in the Western world at this time, that it's the only time in the world where men can transition to being women. You can't then, and you should be grateful for that rather than demanding to be part of women's sports, and just accept it. My cousin, he's colourblind. He wanted to be a pilot. He couldn't. He can't just identify as somebody who can see all the colours now, can he? So that's just the way it is. And as you know, of course, I'm trans hot. I've got the brain of a very beautiful woman, but the body of a normal-looking woman. And I would love for everyone to buy me drinks and let me into nightclubs for free, but I can't.
Well, can I just recommend taking off your jacket? World's strongest. You're the what are you? Women's. You want
again? What I do on the weekend is nothing to do with you. I've got some sympathy for the organisers because it's the world's strongest woman, and a lot of the competitors look like maybe you would have asked that question. You know, and I'm not being harsh to women who lift because they would thrash me within an inch of my life, which I would love. But instead, what I'm saying is, this is not a story like everyone's getting all upset. It's not like the sketch, because the sketch was saying policies were going to change to just let men do this. And actually, this story isn't about policy. The policy was right. This is the sticky issue of policing. Like, how do you work out if someone doesn't disclose their birth sex? How do you test? Can you just test all of them, or just say that one needs testing? That's the question here. But you know, good news. The kind of thing you want to hear is this sport had this policy in place for ages. It's a win.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yes, you're right. It's hard to work out which steroids people are on.
I mean, when I did a Miss Teen Kilkenny in my hometown in 1998, like the man in charge, he looked down all our tops to make sure that the bras weren't stuffed, and that was how they did it.
That wasn't a real pageant, and it probably wasn't a real test.
Oh.
That was in a car park where that happened, was it?
Oh, yeah. Do you think?
We've just had some funny joke about abuse. Right, our next question is from Anton.
Is the Union Jack offensive?
Is the Union Jack offensive? So, an artist created an anti-racist Union Jack for a Brighton Library exhibition, using textiles from the UK's diverse communities. The council cancelled the display, fearing it might inadvertently upset minority groups, despite its inclusive message. Decision sparked debate over national symbols, artistic intent, and how public spaces navigate sensitivity in modern Britain. So, if even a kind of woke Union Jack is offensive, what does that speak to how we treat our national symbol, our flag?
Well, the Union Jack is very offensive in Ireland. Yeah, it seems ridiculous that you can't fly your flag, and I know some people do it in your face to make a point, but it was the most mild-mannered, inclusive flag that you could have. Like, have you been to a library recently?
No.
No. Very few people go.
I can't read.
Right. You just auto-cue, is it? But
don't know what you're talking about.
There's most of the people in the libraries they're either older, retired people, some young people studying, but they're mostly actually immigrants. And they're getting on with their life. They're printing out CVs, they're getting tapes or CDs to learn English. I don't think they are offended by this at all. They're trying to become integrated into society. It's other people who are getting offended on their behalf. It's ridiculous.
So this is Brighton, is it only Palestinian flags that are accepted?
Yeah, they're all over the place. This is an amazing story, because it's not even just saying people might be offended. In the article it said it might put people and their belongings at risk. It's a flag on a wall, and your belongings. Well, I was so shocked I accidentally pooed in my pencil case. I don't know how you would end up getting your belongings injured by this thing. But why do we... Because they say the context might be missing. So if you can't, you might think, I think it's an actual flag. Surely the only context you need for a nation's flag is being in that nation. If I went to any country and there was that nation's flag in its library, I'd be like, and I'd crack on with my day. I don't know why it's a problem here.
Well, because it's Brighton. Our next question is from John.
Good evening.
Good evening, hey.
My question is a Greta question. Mm-hmm. Should environmentalists protest against Greta?
Should environmentalists protest against Greta? Yeah, Greta Thunberg. She's been banned from Venice, fined €150 after dumping green dye in the Grand Canal with Extinction Rebellion activists. Organisers of the protest aim to raise awareness of climate issues, coinciding with the end of the COP30 summit. So they're saying that this dye is not going to harm the water, but it could well dye the buildings.
It could indeed. In fact, I think not only should environmentalists protest against Greta, everyone should protest against Greta.
Really? Wow.
Yes,
wherever
indeed.
she goes.
Wherever she goes.
It's a big shame.
She's on a good thing with her environmental crusades, but she's been leaping on all sorts of other political crusades, and I wonder whether she's been devaluing what she's been doing.
No, of course. I mean, she's got a lot of supporters, obviously, in the environmental cause. Interestingly, also with the in the Gaza cause, but I wonder if the sort of that's taken over now. It's interesting to see her back in the environmental.
It's nice to see.
I'm surprised they let her back in.
Well, it's nice to see it go back to the original. That difficult second album was not as good. You know what I mean? The whole Gaza protest. Now we're back in the eco stuff, and I wish they'd work out that it's not working, is it? Because we've had loads of these protests. COP30 was less eco-friendly than COP29 or COP20. If anything, you could plot a graph saying the more you protest, the worse this is getting. And I've done interviews where you speak to people from Extinction Rebellion, and they say, but it's so important. But what you're doing is not helping. And they'll say, well, you've got to do something. And I say to them, why protest in Italy, where this is about oil-producing nations? Why don't you go and protest in, like, Saudi Arabia? And the answer is because they'd kill you and put you in a bag. And, but then I'd say to them, I'd say to them, this is really important. And they say, but me being put in a bag won't help. And I said, well, you've got to do something. So it feels like they should pick a side on this, do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. I mean, is she being a bit of a hypocrite here? You'd think that protecting the environment would not mean making things green.
Yeah, I just think it's very funny. It's in Italy where they're just going to be like, no, not here. I don't like it. It's so aesthetically pleasing.
Was that meant to be an Italian?
Yes, that was. I've married several Italians for their money, so I can do it. And the fact that there's probably an American tourist like in a gondola and he's about to propose and I love you so much, and then suddenly they see Greta and all this green slime coming around, ruining their trip of a lifetime. It doesn't really work.
You know what? You don't even need the green slime, just need to see Greta. Right, our final question is from Anton.
Are geeks too woke?
Are geeks too woke? Yes, Stranger Things has revived interest in Dungeons & Dragons, but not all fans are pleased, including Anton, who just asked that question. Critics say that modern updates, woke revisions and inclusive art are diluting the game's classic fantasy appeal. Long-time players worry that political correctness is overshadowing adventure, monsters and the original spirit of D&D. Now, are you familiar with
D&D, drunk and disorderly? That's what I thought it was. Which, unfortunately, I'm very...
the opposite.
I'm very, very familiar with D&D. I've had 3 or 4 of them in my time. I've never played Dungeons and Dragons. Board games, I don't like them. There's a reason they're called board games, because I'm bored. I'm sorry, Josh.
I've been triggered.
Yeah, I know, you're very triggered. But I know, it looks like a lot of fun. And, OK, so they've had to change a few words in the script. I have no idea really because I've never played it, but you know, things, I mean, they probably take out gypsy and put in a different word. I don't know if it would really affect it.
Well, it's worse than that. It's, I mean, they've taken out the concept of race. It's
yeah,
like,
you can't use the word race.
There are these, the Orcs are now like super nice and everybody's kissing each other.
But to be fair, I mean, I'm a nerd, but I'm not that much of a nerd. I mean, I'll watch some sci-fi, but playing D&D.
Look down on the D&D.
Oh, definitely, yeah. I mean, if the worst thing in your life is your D&D is not what it used to be, you've got no problems, is what I'm thinking. But yeah, some of the things they've changed don't make any sense at all, do they? That, I mean, I would say to anyone complaining about it or playing D&D, you just like grow up. No offence to the board game players. Look at his face. Have I upset you now? You and your people.
I am very, very...
The idea of taking... Because they've taken the word gypsy out, and I used to live in Kent, and down there they have like a local dish that's called the Kentish gypsy tart. And I think only 2 of those words you shouldn't say on TV. The Kentish, I think you can get away with. The rest of them are probably offensive.
Well, Kentish gypsy tart is actually my name in Dungeons & Dragons. Next on Free Speech Nation, the government is set to announce major reform to the criminal justice system in England and Wales, including reducing the number of trials by jury. What does that mean for our society? See you in 2 minutes.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean All Clear Skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there, and this is your holiday forecast from the Met Office. It's a little bit changeable across Europe over the next week or so. We do have a few showers across the Canary Islands to begin with, but some nice bright sunshine for Spain, maybe just feeling a little bit cooler than normal here. For northern Italy, we do have some heavier showers to begin with, and we do have some nice bright sunnier spells for Greece. Now, it does remain a bit unchangeable over the next few days, but for Tenerife, the temperatures are slowly on the rise.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello again and welcome to your latest GB News weather update from the Met Office. It's set to turn much wetter and windier as we move into meteorological winter. Some flooding possible in places on Monday and an amber weather warning in place across parts of Wales. It's all thanks to this frontal system pushing in from the southwest, bringing with it a wedge of much milder air, but the isobars close together, so it will also turn quite a lot windier. And that's the case for this evening as well. So we've already got some rain pushing in from the west. Weather warnings coming into place overnight tonight. So a pretty wet and windy picture for most of us by the time we get to tomorrow morning. The rain particularly heavy out towards the west and over the high ground. After a chilly start to the evening, look at these temperatures by the end of the night, 10 or 11 degrees Celsius. So a much, much milder start to the day on Monday compared to on Sunday. But it will be wet and windy, as I say. Some really blustery winds through the morning across the south and the southwest, gales around the coasts, outbreaks of rain as well, particularly persistent over the higher ground of Wales and western parts of England. Some heavy bursts here shown by these brighter shades on the map. Across western parts of Northern Ireland, western parts of Scotland, well here, something a little bit drier perhaps coming in, at least for a time on Monday morning, perhaps even a few sunny spells, but still wet across the northeast of Scotland. It stays wet and windy for most of us through the day on Monday, particularly across England and Wales. That rain persistent and heavy for some western areas, so some flooding likely by the afternoon, particularly across Wales. Dry and brighter for many parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland. Some sunshine here, but the rain might just flipped once again back across southern parts of Scotland. And look at these temperatures, 12 to 14 degrees Celsius, so a much milder day to come. For Tuesday, it's a bit more straightforward. Sunshine and blustery showers. The wind strongest up towards the northwest, where there'll be some heavy showers, potentially even some rumbles of thunder. Driest towards the east, with the best of the sunshine here. Through the middle part of the week, it stays quite changeable, a mixture of sunshine and showers, but generally temperatures quite close to average for the time of year.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Free Speech Nation. Now, at a common statement on Tuesday, Justice Secretary David Lammy is going to upend a cornerstone of British liberty that dates all the way back to the Magna Carta. Acting on a report by Sir Brian Leveson, Lammy has gone further to propose scrapping jury trials for every case outside of those that result in more than a 5-year jail sentence. He cites the 80,000 case backlog, stating that rape victims will be denied justice unless jury trials for most cases are scrapped. But the proposed changes have led to a backlash from barristers and lawyers. It also seems to have offended the British people's sense of justice, and rightly so. So, has the government overplayed its hand? I'm now joined by the barrister and writer Stephen Barrett. Welcome to the show. This is a huge story. Now, we heard about these proposals a while ago. We've even talked about them before. But the fact that David Lammy's gone further than the proposals, is justice going to be dead for many in our society?
So the first thing you need to know is that
Brian Leveson's political opinion is no more important than your own. And it's a bit of a flim-flammery, really, to engage a judge to write a political report on how we ought to run our justice system. He's got no real... I don't like this idea that he's some sort of expert or that his expertise adds any value. For a start, he's been in the Court of Appeal for a very long time, not going down, Snaresbrook Crown Court and realising how things work. But I don't think anybody can be expert in this.
But there is a real problem here, though, right?
Well, no, 80,000 cases, and it's then tagged on the word backlog. That might just be normal operating numbers. We're a large country with about 70 million people in it. We keep importing a load of migrant men who commit crimes, and it's highly possible that that's just a normal operating figure.
I don't think it is. If the examples they use are of rape cases that won't necessarily be heard till 2029, that seems to point that there is a real issue. By the way, I just want to say I think that using rape cases is such an emotive issue to try and get this through. There is a real problem, but of course the alternative is invest in our courts, or do these kind of pop-up night courts, or prioritise these rape cases to get them to the front of the queue. There are other solutions, right?
Of course there are, and this is what is going on. They are looking for problems to justify the policy because they want the policy. Every socialist government has wanted to get rid of jury trials, and they do it. You know, that's what Hitler did in Germany. That's what they do in communist societies, because it gives the state control over criminal law, which allows them to penalise and punish their political opponents. That is what they want, and they've tried to manipulate you by dressing it up with a retired judge to give it some, I don't know what glamour it gives it, but perhaps to people who've never met judges, they're in some way impressive people. But they've tried it to rape cases, which is obviously emotionally manipulative, and they've gone on about this backlog, which, as you'll rightly point out, they could fix in any other way. Not all of our courts sit every day now, so we have empty, unused court spaces now. Why would getting rid of the jury speed up a verdict if the judge went through exactly the same deliberative process, applied exactly the same weight and gravity to the matter, and turned their mind to it? The only way it speeds up process is if the judge just goes guilty, 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 guilty. And that gives them state and political power. Now, I'm not disparaging our judges, and they do a fantastic job where they are able. They don't always need juries, but I do think we've gone too far on this, and we've been boiling like a frog for too long. Tony Blair got rid of trial by magistrate.
But isn't this, I mean, from Tony Blair's time, but also from now, what we're talking about is the end of a right that British people have enjoyed for 800 years, to be judged by your peers.
Yes, and I should point that out. So it's 810 years. We're invaded in 1066 by a bunch of very violent, aggressive military men who are really no better than the Taliban. And they behave absolutely appallingly. They throw us in oubliettes. They steal our stuff. They do all the stuff you see on Braveheart. And they are absolute monsters. Eventually, we drag them kicking and screaming, firstly in 1166, to some form of justice. It's not a very good form of justice. And then in 1215, we drag them to trial by jury and trial by peer. It's the oldest of our freedoms because it's the most important. Voting is so much younger. I think people don't really know that the universal franchise for men only really came in 1918. For women, it's 1928. The universal franchise for 18-year-olds is something like 1969. You know, voting is a more important right, I would say, but it's so much younger. It's so much newer. This one is old. It's the basic first protection against a dictator.
That's it. And the whole idea is that, of course, that you have the wisdom of crowds, right? Rather than a judge. Now, obviously, I know you know judges and through your work, but there are a lot of people out there who are frankly quite cynical about some of our judges and who feel like they are using their own personal opinions as opposed to the law to push through judgments. That's the risk, isn't it?
Yes, and if you had any common sense at all, the House of Lords Constitution Committee and the Lady Chief Justice are currently stamping their little feet and demanding that the public respect judges. That's not, I'm just going to say it out loud, that's not going to work. It's not a way that you get respect, and nobody gets respect in life by demanding it. You can't be Eric Cartman and just stamp your feet and suddenly people are going to respect you. If we want our judges respected, and I do, then you pull them away from political decisions, from things which are dodgy or might look dodgy. Imagine if a judge finds a political opponent of a Labour government guilty, and actually he or she has done everything right. The crowd is not going to forgive them, even if they had done it right. I mean, it's going to be an instant. If judges had common sense, they would reject this power themselves.
Yeah, well, but there's already been a lot of cases that have been publicised where these judgments have been heavily criticised. I'm thinking also of cases the opposite way, where you had the free speech case of Jamie Michael, where he was the jury basically took 17 minutes to find him innocent. That isn't necessarily what would have happened if it had been a judge.
Everything that happened to Lucy Connolly happened because there was no jury element at all. This was judges. Now, I don't think she was denied bail twice. Now, I don't think that's justified, but some judge did that. That, in my mind, raises very serious questions. But yes, the minute we got another person charged over the disturbances, rightly or wrongly caused by Keir Starmer's complete lack of emotional empathy up in Southport, the jury found him innocent in 17 minutes. That's not going to happen if the decision is made by a state employee with a state pension whose promotion is entirely dependent upon the state. It's just not going to happen. Any good judge would reject this power. It will corrupt them. There is no way it cannot corrupt them.
And I think a lot of people out there would kind of just go, it's sort of an abstract idea until, of course, you are in court with your liberty at stake here. And whether people wake up in time and realise how incredibly dangerous this is, we'll see. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, big round of applause. Stephen Barrett. Next, on Free Speech Nation, pro-Palestine protesters hit Tesco's after a member he is suspended over his unwillingness to handle Israeli goods. See you in 2 minutes.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
So many people within the armed services now can say that they owe their lives if they were, shall we say, working in the Middle East and in Afghanistan, in Iraq before that, actually owe their lives to the fact that it was dogs that they sent out to see whether or not there were explosives in a building, whether they were going through a minefield or whatever. So I think we were just talking previously, of course, Hannibal uses elephants. And there has not been a single year since the end of the Second World War when we have not had a conflict of some sort, and animals are still being used. We don't have horses used in the same way, obviously. We still had the cavalry, which is why 8 million horses were lost. Horses, donkeys and mules were lost in the First World War. But they weren't just the cavalry horses. They were the horses that were pulling the guns, that were delivering the armaments, that were carrying out the wounded. And what is interesting is, today in the 21st century, in Ukraine, who are leading the way in using drones in modern warfare, they are doing what they did in the First World War, and they're using horses, donkeys and mules to take the wounded out. The wonderful memorial that we have on Park Lane, it's there and it recognises that it was horses, dogs, donkeys, mules, and if you look, because they have individual statues of them, but if you actually look at the memorial itself, you will see pigeons, dolphins. I mean, we know that dolphins are being used. As human beings, we share this planet with millions of other animals. And for centuries, we have used certain animals and abused them, used them and abused them, and got them into service with us.
GB News, the People's Channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Guys, that's so spontaneous. Thank you. Welcome back to Free Speech Nation. Tesco's is the latest supermarket to be targeted by pro-Palestine groups. The local store in County Down, Northern Ireland, has drawn the ire of the BDS movement for suspending a worker who refused to handle Israeli products. 1,700 people have signed a petition for the company to withdraw the threat of disciplinary action. According to the BDS movement, the suspended employee shouldn't be sanctioned for refusing to handle blood-soaked Israeli goods. This campaign against our supermarkets saw a widespread campaign in July by the Palestine Solidarity Campaign against Sainsbury's, as they said, bringing awareness to the amount of Israeli food sold in their supermarkets. Well, look, let's get to this story. Welcome, first of all, to the show, Jonathan Sachadoti, journalist and broadcaster. Jonathan, is Tesco's, is it in their right to be able to suspend him?
Not an expert on, employment law, but I would say, obviously, if you refuse to do your job at work, you probably ought to be suspended or fired for it.
Well, I imagine the thing is, it's like a vegetarian being told, refusing to handle meat.
Yes.
Or someone who might say, I refuse to handle halal goods. because I don't agree with the ideology of how they're killed.
There's literally nothing wrong with the items that Tesco is selling, and if you don't like selling them or being part of the selling of them, you're welcome to go and get a job somewhere else where you don't have to do that. But I can't see any real argument. I'm not sure anyone could probably think of a good argument why they shouldn't be able to. And I think the weakness of the case is given away by these sorts of ridiculous phrases like blood-soaked goods, because, I mean, unless they literally are soaking the goods in blood before they give them to the guy, it just shows what nonsense, this sort of hyperbole involved in trying to make this sound dramatic. These people need to get a life. They just need to get on with doing their jobs like normal people do, getting paid for that. If they're not into the job, they should stop doing it. And when it comes to trying to smear Israel and Israeli goods, well, you know, good luck, because there's a reason that shops like Tesco are stocking those products. I don't even know what products in particular they're talking about, but it's probably because they're good and they're reliable and they're well made or they're good price. And those are the sorts of things that ordinary people, I think, are looking for when they go to the supermarket. They're not asking, you know, if there's a mad fringe far left or Islamist group that doesn't like this particular product. If they are, I'm sure there are shops that accommodate that sort of thing. I think the Co-op actually is kind of along those lines. So they can all those crazies can go shop in the Co-op. The rest of us can shop in Tesco where we like. That's the whole point in having freedom of choice.
Absolutely, and I imagine that, yes, it comes down to economics, and people make those choices of where they want to spend their money, and because of the Co-op, the decisions they made, I'm not shopping there anymore. And if people are going to support the countries and goods that I like, then I'll support there. And again, it's also the fact that this has even been raised as an issue. It's a way of kind of erasing anything to do with Israel from the public space, which is what we've seen, just not even over the last 2 years, even before then.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I'll say, you've told me you're not shopping in the Co-op because of certain things they've done. That's absolutely, you're right. But what I think these sorts of people don't tend to understand is that a boycott is when you personally choose not to do something because of your beliefs. It's not where you stand outside and bully other people from doing it or make them feel scared to go and do it when they would like to. It's not when you force other people or other places or companies to do what you think. If you've got a good argument for something, you should make it. I think the fact that people need to try and bully their way and intimidate their way into getting what they want usually shows the weakness of their argument, and I'd say that that probably applies in this case. This person really has no strength of argument. It's, as you said, it's an attempt to just make a lot of noise. It's working because we're talking about it here, but I think that most regular British people who hear about these stories just roll their eyes and think, for goodness sake, just get on with life, go buy what you like. Of course, there's nothing wrong with those products. And just to, labour the point, there's nothing wrong with the State of Israel. The State of Israel is actually engaged in trying to combat one of the worst acts of terrorism that's taken place in modern history, the slaughter that took place on October the 7th of Israelis and other nationals who were in Israel, the people who were raped, the people who were kidnapped, the people who were tortured to death, the people who were killed in their beds, in their homes, all of those people. That's why Israel has been at war. That's why Israel's been targeting the jihadists in Gaza. That's why Israel is against all forms of Palestinian terrorism over many decades before the 7th of October. If that's a reason for stopping buying products from that country, again, I think it just shows how morally bankrupt those people are. In reality, Israel probably deserves the support of ordinary, regular British people who also stand against all those evils that Israel's fighting.
Well, I don't know how much of a coincidence it is that this happened, unfortunately, in Northern Ireland, because Ireland is Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland seem to have an issue when it comes to Jews. There's another incident this weekend, particularly, where they're trying to rename a park in Dublin named after Herzog Park, which was a Belfast-born Jew, I believe, who then went on to become a president in Israel. They're going to rename it because they just want to erase Jews, even Irish Jews, from the national life. And it seems to have really kicked off, because even now the Teos, or whatever, how you pronounce it properly, sorry, he has basically come out and said, no, this is anti-Semitic.
Well, I think, again, it's just another example of trying to make a lot of noise about something which quite clearly isn't just motivated by the reasons that they give. There's no reason to try and rename this park. In some respects, I always say this when we have these conversations, I'm sort of pleased they're doing it because it really reveals what kind of people we're talking about. So when you start trying to rename parks because they're named after historic Irish Jew who also became an important figure in the State of Israel, I think it just shows how pathetic your beliefs and arguments are. There's really no excuse for that. There's no reason for it, and I hope that they put a stop to this.
OK, all right. Well, we've reached out to Tesco. We're still waiting a response. Big round of applause, please, for Jonathan's activity. And thank you for joining us for Free Speech Nation. Thank you to my panel, all my brilliant guests. Thank you to the audience. And if you want to be part of this, you can go online and gbnews.com/tickets. See you next week. Take care.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello again and welcome to your latest GB News weather update from the Met Office. It's set to turn much wetter and windier as we move into meteorological winter. Some flooding possible in places on Monday and an amber weather warning in place across parts of Wales. It's all thanks to this frontal system pushing in from the southwest, bringing with it a wedge of much milder air, but the isobars close together, so it will also turn quite a lot windier. And that's the case for this evening as well. So we've already got some rain pushing in from the west. Weather warnings coming into place overnight tonight. So a pretty wet and windy picture for most of us by the time we get to tomorrow morning. The rain particularly heavy out towards the west and over the high ground. After a chilly start to the evening, look at these temperatures by the end of the night, 10 or 11 degrees Celsius. So a much, much milder start to the day on Monday compared to on Sunday. But it will be wet and windy, as I say. Some really blustery winds through the morning across the south and the southwest. Gales around the coasts. Outbreaks of rain as well, particularly persistent over the higher ground of Wales and western parts of England. Some heavy bursts here shown by these brighter shades on the map. Across western parts of Northern Ireland, western parts of Scotland. Well, here, something a little bit dry perhaps coming in, at least for a time on Monday morning. Perhaps even a few sunny spells, but still wet across the northeast of Scotland. It stays wet and windy for most of us through the day on Monday, particularly across England and Wales. That rain persistent and heavy for some western areas, so some flooding likely by the afternoon, particularly across Wales. Dry and brighter for many parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland. Some sunshine here, but the rain might just flip once again back across southern parts of Scotland. And look at these temperatures, 12 to 14 degrees Celsius, so a much milder day to come. For Tuesday, it's a bit more straightforward. Sunshine and blustery showers. The wind strongest up towards the northwest, where there'll be some heavy showers, potentially even some rumbles of thunder. Driest towards the east, with the best of the sunshine here. Through the middle part of the week, it stays quite changeable, a mixture of sunshine and showers, but generally temperatures quite close to average for the time of year.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
It's the big one. Your chance to win a whopping £85,000 in tax-free cash. The largest cash prize we've given away to date. That's like over £7,000 a month extra in your bank account each month for 12 whole months. That's a year of yes. Yes to holidays, yes to treats, yes to shopping trips, yes to home improvements. For a chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash